Manchester United may have failed to beat Bournemouth at home on Monday night, but still this felt like a potential turning point for Ruben Amorim. For one of the first times his team was flexible. We saw a move away from the traditional 3-4-3 into more of a 4-4-2 formation. So the question is, what does this actually mean for United on the pitch? Now, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but formation is not everything. Structure is not equal to philosophy. However, there are different things that we can learn when we do change shape. Of course, the most important thing is still the way that you want to play the game, the freedom that you give your players, and the way that you approach the game, your mindset, your intensity, and your intentions, and all things like that. But as I said, you can learn things from a new formation, and you can see a very different Manchester United side. And particularly in the last 20 minutes against Bournemouth, United were very much in a 4-2-4 shape with these personnel on the pitch, although Shaw did eventually come off for Patrick Dorgu, and we saw Xerxes come on as well. But it was this sort of 11 from Manchester United. And in terms of the profiles that we've got on the pitch, it's a little bit different to normal, and the positions that they're in are a little bit different. We've got two centre-backs playing centre-back, we've got two full-backs playing full-back, two midfielders in midfield, two wide players out wide, and then two good ball strikers up front. So what Ruben Amorim has done by tweaking this formation is got players into more comfortable zones. And ultimately, if you want to see an instant improvement from your players, putting them into positions where they're comfortable is a great way of doing that. Now, of course, we don't know if United are going to stick with this shape, but there has been suggestions there is a new plan, particularly during AFCON, so I think this is worth looking into. So let's start off by looking at United on the ball in this new formation, because I think there's some real irony here as we are going to see as we move through the team. Starting off with goal kicks, United looking to play from the back. Now in the last 20 minutes we didn't see too many of these situations, just because the game was so chaotic. We never really saw a settled goal kick. Bournemouth were defensively a little bit all over the place at the time, but you can see here sort of something that is intriguing for the way that United are playing, because look where the two Manchester United centre-backs are. That's right, first of all, only two centre-backs, which is an improvement, but they are in centre-back positions. When the keeper's got the ball here, neither of them are inverting into midfield, neither of them are going in to receive with their back to goal. And I cannot stress how important I think this is for United evolving as a tactical side. Because, again, players are in normal positions. Fullbacks out wide, centre-backs in the middle with the play in front of them. For Aiden Heaven and Lisandro Martinez, this is nice. They can pick the ball up and everything, including the pressing opposition players, is in front of them. So they've got their time to get the head up. It's the midfielders that are now responsible receiving with their back to goal. But importantly, they are more equipped with the skill set to do this because they are central midfielders. They are used to playing under pressure. Certainly more used to playing under pressure than what De Ligt and Harry Maguire are. So this is where United could definitely improve. Now, this is where one message is very clear. Changing the formation doesn't instantly improve this, because yes, we've got better profiles here, we still have to actually want to go and play in those areas. Having midfielders in here only works if United free up space to access those central midfielders. So that's something that we're going to need to see growing and developing and evolving over the next few weeks if this is a shape that we shift to. We need to see United trying to move and combine a little bit more to open up these spaces where Bruno Fernandes can now get on the ball, because there's definitely potential here where United could still do something similar to what we've done before, trying to draw the opposition over to one side before then playing the ball over to the far side. Again, then having central midfielders receiving the second ball could be key. Now this is something for me that I really want to see. United playing less long balls from the goalkeeper and actually playing through the pitch. But I think actually one of the most important things with this change is the positioning of the forwards and the fact that they are now actually allowed to be forwards. You see, we know that when Ahmad plays at wing-back, he often drops into a full-back position in the first phase. So if United are successful, they play out from the back, they move the ball through the pitch and attack, Ahmad has to start as a full-back before eventually arriving into the final third. And it's put a lot of pressure on him as a player physically to cover that sort of ground. I think he's been amazing. I think he deserves so much credit for the way that he's played. His work rate, his intensity, his fitness, all of that. He deserves a lot of credit. But this just makes it easier, right? Rather than starting at right back and running up into a position eventually on the right wing, now he can just start on the right wing. We could have another winger on this side, potentially Cunha, potentially someone else. And we can also get forwards into advanced positions high up the pitch. The forwards are in forward positions, the defenders are in defensive positions, and the midfielders are in midfield, although there is still an argument for moving these guys. Okay, so now it is time for some irony, because we are now going to talk about once United have got the ball down, the ball has settled, United are controlling possession and trying to move the ball through the opposition. And the reason why this is so ironic is because of the shape that United were moving into in the later stages against Bournemouth. So initially we are in our 4-4-2, that's how it appears on paper, but the second United get the ball down, Heaven shifts across a little bit into the middle. Sandro Martinez moved a little bit wider. Diogo Dalot tucked himself in from the right-hand side, and Luke Shaw started flying forward on the overlap. Now, if we just take a second to look at that Manchester United team, the structure that we are using, it looks very, very familiar. And once again, this is why formations are not the most important thing. It's the starting positions of players and the profiles that you get onto the pitch. I think what I like about this approach compared to what we normally use is I think this is a better front five than what we typically have. Of course, it's largely similar, but I just think having someone like Luke Shaw here, who can deliver in the final third, is just better than the likes of Dalot and the likes of Dorgu. I think he's a better player, so I think that would almost instantly improve United on the ball. The other reason why, though, I think this shape can be more dangerous, despite being the same shape, is because it's a transition into this shape. Because Shaw starts as a fullback and then arrives high, because Cunha starts wide and then comes narrow, these countering movements, I think, give United the opportunity to shift and move and overwhelm the opposition a bit more than what we've done in the past. If Luke Shaw just starts here, it's quite obvious who is picking him up. It's the fullback, and then maybe a midfielder will pick up Cunha. Whereas if Shaw starts deeper in the first phase and Cunha starts wide, these players are the two responsible for them, but as Shaw comes forward and then Cunha comes in, you start to shift and manipulate the opposition. This is something that United could do very well using Ruben Amorim's normal shape. We just get there in a different way. And the thing about this, if we do end up in the same shape, is that Amorim can achieve a lot of what he likes to achieve, and that is those wide combinations, those wide diamonds between before the wing-back, now a winger, the fullback, the midfielder, and one of the forwards. A wide diamond in that position here. We could see the same on the other side as well, with now a centre-back, but also Shaw, Cunha, Bruno, Martinez. These players can now combine. So Ruben Amorim can still get his wide diamonds, he can still create these overloads, but we're doing it in a slightly more normal formation. Now, of course, United actually used this system and this approach when we were 3-2 down and really chasing a goal. So actually, the 11 that we might see playing these positions could differ. We could absolutely see Casemiro playing in the double pivot. We could even see Bruno Fernandes moved higher into the front two. Cunha could play in the front two. Mount could play out wide. There's lots of different rotations that we could do. And that's important here. Rotations, particularly now as we try to defend again. Because a lot of you will be sitting here looking at Luke Shaw and going, physically, he's not capable of doing this. He's not capable of playing left back and marauding forward on the ball to provide an attacking outlet. He's going to get injured. And there's every chance he might get injured because he is Luke Shaw. He tends to get injured. But this system does give him more chance of staying fit because of the switch off the ball. Because he is not a wing back, he is a fullback. So when United lose the ball, the transition to the new shape is quite easy. Luke Shaw just drops deep into the back four. And I think this is something that defensively, we'll come on to in just a second, could help United a lot. Because we no longer have wing backs jumping from fullback to high wingers. They actually just play constantly as a fullback. And now just with a couple of position shifts, United are back into a comfortable 4-4-2. So why is this important? Well, because it can reduce the load on the players, it can create a more versatile squad, more players can play different positions, but also it can reduce the physical load on the Manchester United defenders. Those wing-backs normally have such a tough job because they are doing so much running up and down the two flanks, right? They cover so much ground, but also physically, they leave gaps because it's so difficult. If I play as a wing-back and in one moment I'm here and then I'm sprinting up and down like this all day long, there are moments where I'm a little bit tired and I leave a space in behind myself. With a fullback, I think it's a little bit easier. The timing of jumps are more simplified. You know when it is your job to go and apply pressure over here, and you also know when it is your job to drop a little bit deeper and stay tucked in. I think that will help reduce the gaps outside of the centre-backs. So we would have one less centre-back, but actually they would still have less defensive ground to cover, which is quite a fascinating idea, but that is ultimately how it could play out. It should, therefore, make United more compact. Now, I know we didn't see that towards the end of the game against Bournemouth. I think that was more of a case of the squad getting caught up in the momentum of the game and the emotion of the game and not realising that we were ahead and needing to protect the lead. Ahmad here shouldn't be this high and we shouldn't get caught out in this moment. So I don't necessarily think, this change of shape was the problem at the end against Bournemouth defensively. But of course, it needs some coaching. It needs some work. If you're playing with two centre-backs rather than three, that's going to change the way that you approach the game as a defender. You look at it very differently. Your jobs are very different. for a fullback. It's a very different job whether you're playing wing-back or fullback. That's a very, very different challenge. The same for the United wide midfielders and also the two in the middle, because the players they've got around them are all very different. However, if United can coach this well, it can make us more compact defensively and potentially more lethal in transition, because when we pick the ball up, when we win the ball back, our players are high. Amad isn't stuck at right back, having 140 yards to cover to get onto the wing. He's already out wide. So when we transition, when we look to pounce forward, Amad is already in this high advanced starting position. So not only could this make United more compact defensively, it could actually make United more dangerous in transitions, which is quite a frightening prospect because we all saw how United was so dangerous against both Wolves and Bournemouth as well. Now, of course, as I said right at the start, changing formation doesn't suddenly fix Manchester United. There's still a lot of coaching that needs to go into this team, a change of philosophies and intentions and things like that. I also understand that a lot of people will make this argument. AJ, we used the back four under Ten Hag and we lost a lot of football matches. That's a fair point. That's not necessarily, though, because the formation worked poorly. Perhaps at the time we were coached poorly, or the ideas were wrong. The same could be the case under Ruben Amorim, or he could coach a really good back four and United could be successful. For example, Arsenal are currently winning the league with a back four, so it's not to say that the back four is specifically the problem that United have faced. We still need recruitment for this to work, and that's the case in any shape, any formation, any system that we use. United need a few more players to fill out this squad. We are lacking an athletic midfielder or a proper winger on the left-hand side, and maybe some centre-backs as well. United need new players, but I do think this base formation gives United a nicer starting point, getting players into their best positions. And for me, that's where I think they can then thrive. For players, for stars especially, it's all about having the right environment. And I think this would be a really good starting point. Now, the funny thing is we don't actually know whether or not United are going to stick with this, and we are also about to lose Mazraoui, Amad and Mbeumo. So it's going to be tricky, but it gives us something to talk about United moving forward. For now, though, it is sort of a case of wait and see what happens in the next game, how we approach that one. Right now, there's nothing really left to talk about, so we're going to wrap the video up there. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.